Good morning, fifth grade. Today we're going to be working on Module 2, Lesson 23. So very similar to the last few lessons that we've been doing. Only difference now is that we are moving into bigger digits. So now we're working by 4 digits divided by 2 digits. So let's go ahead and get started. Please make sure that you're following along either on your desk or in a notebook. The first problem, you're going to follow along with me, and then the rest of these problems you are going to be working trying them on your own and then fixing them after you watch the video. So let's take a look at the first problem, which is 6,247. So remember that will go inside of the box. 6,247 divided by 29. So for this one, I am going to be using different colored markers again because there are going to be a few different steps. So my first step is I'm going to see, can 29 go into 6? Obviously, no, that can't, so I'm move on to the next step. Can 29 go into 62? And 29 can go into 62. So I'm going to be thinking about, all right, what digit can go in, or how many, what would I multiply 29 by to get into 62? I'm going to, if I were to estimate, I could round maybe this to 60 and that to 30. And I know that 60 divided by 30 is 2. So I'm going to try 2. So I have 29 times 2. 9 times 2 is 18. 2 times 2 is 4. Plus 1 is 5. So 58 does fit into 62, and that's probably as big as it's going to get. So I'm going to put a 2 up here. 29 times 2 is 58. And then I'm going to go ahead and subtract. Now 2 minus 8, I can't do that, so that becomes a 12. And this becomes a 5. And 12 minus 8 is 4. Now I still need to bring down the 4 right here for my next step. And now I'm trying to figure out how many times 29 can fit into 44. And that digit's going to go right up above this place value. So now I need to figure out that place value. So 29 times what is going to fit into 44? Well, I know 29 times 2 is 58. So that's going to be way too big. But I could just do 29 times 1 because 29 times 1 is just 29. And that can fit into 44. So we're going to do 44 minus 29. I can't do 4 minus 9, so I'm going to make that a 14. And I'll cross this 4 out, and make it a 3. Now, 14 minus 9 is going to be 4, 5, is 5. And then 3 minus 2 is 1. But then it's important to remember that you still need to bring down this 7. Now, this is where it's going to get different from last week, because normally by last week's lessons, you would be done after you did the second step. But for today's problem, we're actually going to have 3 steps now. So I got to figure out this last place value and to bring down this 7. So now I have 3 different steps. That's why I'm using 3 different colors. So now I figure out how many times can 29 fit into 157. This is probably a problem where you'll want to estimate to help you solve this problem. So I'm going to do 157 divided by 29. I'm going to round this 29 to 30 and round this 157 to 150. And cancel out the zeros. Think about 15 divided by 3, which is 5. So 29 can probably fit into 157 5 times. So let's try that. 29 times 5. 9 times 5 is 45. And 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 4 is 145. So that's probably as big as it's going to get, and like how close I can possibly get. So I'm going to put a 5 up here, and then I'm going to say 29 times 5 is 145. And then I will go ahead and subtract. So 7 minus 5 is 2. 5 minus 4 is 1. And then 1 minus 1 is 0. So I'm going to check my remainder, make sure that 29 cannot fit into 12. 29 is bigger than 12, so I know that that will not work. So my final answer is going to be 215, remainder 12. And that right there is your final answer. So now that you kind of see how a problem like this works, there are 3 different steps, and most of your problems today will have that many steps. But I want you to try this problem with me now to see how you do on your own. So I'm going to erase this, and I'll give you your next problem. So for our next problem, we have 4,289 divided by 52. Now for this one, you're kind of lucky because if you take a look at it, 52 cannot fit into 4. 52 is also bigger than 42, so 52 cannot fit into 42. So you're actually going to think about how many times can 52 fit into 428 instead. And that's why I like underlining those place values up in my quotient, because that kind of reminds me where I'm trying to get. And then you'll also need to figure out the place value for the quotient for this place value right here. So go ahead and pause this video, figure out how many times 52 can fit into 428, and then try the next step on your own, and then unpause the video and see if you got it right. So for this part right here, I am going to estimate what 428 divided by 52 is. So I'm going to round this 52 to 50, and I round this 428 to 400. So 400 divided by 500, go ahead and cross out a 0, and then I have 40 divided by 5 left, which is 8. So I'm going to see if 8 would make sense up in my quotients. So I'm going to do 52 times 8. 2 times 8 is 16. 5 times 8 is 40. 40 plus 1 is 41. So 416. That is probably as close as I'm going to get, because I know the difference between 416 and 428 is definitely less than 52. So I'm going to put this 8 up in my quotients, and then 52 times 8 is 416. And then I'm going to subtract. So 8 minus 6 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. Now, I still need to bring down this 9. So remember, you're not done. Just because you can't fit 52 into 12 doesn't mean that you're done, because you still need to bring down this 9. So I'm going to draw a line up here to remind myself. Then I need to do that place value. I'm going to bring down that 9. And now I need to think about how many times can 52 fit into 129. So I'm going to erase this work right here so I have some space. And we're going to think about what 129 divided by 52 could be. So I'm going to round 52 to 50, and I'm going to divide by 100, cross out those zeros, and I get 2. So I'm going to think that 52 can fit into 129 2 times. So 52 times 2 is 104. And I know that the difference between 129 and 104 is definitely less than 52. So that makes sense as my quotient. So I'm going to put a 2 up here. And then I'm going to multiply 52 times 2, which is 104. And then I'll go ahead and subtract. 9 minus 4 is 5, 2 minus 0 is 2, and then 1 minus 1 is 0. So my remainder is going to be 25. I'm going to see if that makes sense. So 52 definitely cannot fit into 25. So I am done. So I have no other numbers to drop down. So my final answer is 82, remainder 25. If you got that right, awesome job. If not, keep working along with me and make sure that you're fixing your mistakes as you go. Let's try the next problem. I'm going to set it up for you, and then we'll see what you guys can do on your own. So this problem is 6,649 divided by 63. So since 63 can fit into 66, this is probably going to be a 3-step problem. So you're going to want to make sure that you have that line right there to remind yourself that you're trying to go into that hundreds place right now, and then you're going to do all your steps. So go ahead and pause the video, try that on your own, and then I'll unpause it when you're ready to see what I have done. All right, so I know that 63 can fit into 66 one time, because 63 times 1 is 63, and I know that the difference between those would make sense. So I'm going to put a 1 there, and then I'm going to do 63 times 1, which is 63. So 66 minus 63 is 3. And now I need to make sure that I bring down my next place value. So I'm going to put that right there to remind myself about that place value. And then I'm going to bring down that 4. And I'm going to think about, can 63 go into 34? Now, you might be like, well, I'm done here. I don't know what to do next. But this is very similar to the problem that you had at the very end of lesson 22. If 63 cannot fit into 34, I can't just move on to the next place value and then just put a number there and just call it a day. I can't do that. What I need to do is I actually need to say, well, 63 times 0 fits into 34 because I still need to fill that place value. So 63 times 0 is 0, and then 34 minus 0 is 34. And now I can move on to my very last place value. So that's kind of a tricky problem, but you want to make sure that you don't forget about any of those place values. So we're going to bring down that 9 now, and now I can work on my very last place value. If I miss that one, then maybe I'm, whatever my answer is, maybe I'm saying this is eventually going to be like 108. If I miss that 0, then I'm saying my answer is only 18. And that's a very big difference between 108 and 18. So that's why we do not forget about that 0. So now I have to figure out how many times can 63 go into 349. So I'm going to go ahead and set up an estimation problem for this. So taking a look at this, I'm going to round this to 60, and then I'm going to round this to, let's try 360. So 36 divided by 6, cross out those zeros, I get 6. So let's see if 63 times 6 will fit into 349. So we do 63 times 6. 3 times 6 is 18. 6 times 6 is 36. Plus 1, which is 37. And that's definitely too big because it's larger than 349. So I'll try a factor less than 6. We'll try 63 times 5 now. So 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1, leave the 5. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 plus 1 is 31. So that does work. So I have 315, and I have to make sure I put this up in my quotient. So I'm saying that 63 times 5 can fit into 349. And 63 times 5 is 315. So I go ahead and subtract. Now I'm going to do 9 minus 5, which is 4. 4 minus 1, which is 3. So my remainder is 34. I'm going to see, can 63 fit into 34? No, it can't. So that is my correct answer. So I'm going to write 105, remainder 34 as my final answer. All right, go ahead and erase this, and we're going to move on to our very last problem for today. And then you'll get started on your problem set. So our very last problem is 3,164 divided by 45. Again, if you take a look at this problem, 45 can't fit into 3, 45 can't fit into 31, so it's not going to be a 3-step problem. 45 can fit into 316 though, so that is where you're going to start. Go ahead and pause this video, figure out how many times 45 can go into 316, and then continue solving this problem. All right, so let's figure out what this is. So I have 316 divided by 45. So I am going to round 45 down to 40, and then round 316 up to 320. I'm going to cross that out. I'm going to think about what's 32 divided by 4. That is 8. So I'm going to see if 45 times 8 works with 316. So we're going to do 45 times 8. 5 times 8 is 40. 4 times 8 is 32. 32 plus 4 is 36. So that's definitely way too big. So we're going to try a number smaller than that. So let's try 7. So I have 45 times 7. 5 times 7 is 35. 4 times 7 is 28. And 28 plus 3 is 31. So 315 actually works perfectly for me. Especially because I know the difference between those two is definitely not more than 45. So I'm going to write a 7 up here, and then I'm going to do 45 times 7 is 315. And then I'm going to subtract. 6 minus 5 is 1. And now I have one more step that I have to do. So I know I need to fill in this place value because I still need to bring down that 4. Now it's another one of those tricky problems where you have to think about, okay, 45 definitely doesn't fit into 14, but that doesn't mean that I skipped that place value. So I need to think about 45 times what would fit into 14. So 45 times 0 would fit into 14 because 45 cannot fit into 14, but I still need to put that 0 there. So then 45 times 0 is just 0, and then 14 minus 0 is 14. So my answer is going to be 70, remainder 14. All right, so that is the end of today's lesson. If you still want extra practice, then please ask for help. I can do a small group with you as well. I'm going to pause this video real quick while I get up our problem set and homework set. All right, fifth grade. So for your problem set today, you're going to be working on problems A through F, so the whole first page. Do not worry about the check part. If you don't want to do the check part, you don't have to. I just need you to do the division part. And then you're going to work on word problem number 2. So there's 6 problems, and then there's a word problem. So you have 7 problems in total. And then for tonight's homework, please make sure you mark this down. Put your book away. You're also going to be doing A through F and then number 2. So remember, if you have any questions, please make sure you raise your hand and ask, or do a small group with me. Good luck on the problem set and have fun.